All right, so in our last video, we continued our discussion of Keynesian economics, specifically by talking about these specific ways that the federal government in the United States can influence the business cycle, which remember is our aggregate average measure of growth within the economy. We talked about how to either grow or shrink aggregate demand based on your goals within the economy to try and smooth out this boom and bust cycle within the economy to make one which is more efficient and has fewer shocks to the system. Now, I've talked a little bit about government spending and I've talked a little bit about taxes, so it's important to start this conversation by asking who pays for all of this? How do budgets work? Where do governments get their money? How are we supposed to make our plans and pay for different things? One of the key understandings that I want to start with today, and I'm not the first person to have said this, is that the federal budget of the United States, remember, Congress sets the budget, they're the ones who collect taxes and they're the ones who spend the taxes. It is very different from your average household family budget. All right, similar concepts. You've got the breadwinners bringing the money in and also spending it on things like rent and shelter. There's a key difference between these two because the federal budget and Congress has one key tool in its arsenal, which is called deficit spending. Deficit spending is the number one key way that the federal government can increase aggregate demand and get us out of a cycle of recession towards more economic growth. So, for example, in a time of recession, remember, what are our key problems in a recession? You've got high unemployment, low GDP, low production, all right? So Keynesian theory says that we need to increase aggregate demand. And as we said in our last video, the two ways to do that is you can increase government spending, you can cut taxes. Each of these things, they are ideally going to help you to get out of a recession. We talked about the example earlier of the Great Depression. Okay. During the Great Depression, period of sustained, basically no economic growth, lots of economic shrinkage, we worked on lots of different infrastructure programs, lots of different relief programs. These all kind of had the effect of helping to increase the aggregate demand in the economy. But what really did it was the US getting into World War II. And hey, what is World War II except for massive government spending? Okay. Now, included in here, when we're talking about government spending, this is also unemployment programs. This is Social Security, unemployment insurance, whatever name you want to give it. That is an example of government spending, which is ideally going to be increasing aggregate demand. Now, here's the nasty part, and everybody agrees on this. Everyone who's on board with Keynesian economics is that you are going to run up a debt, okay? Now, running up a debt is not a great thing. Okay, but it has its uses and it's not killer within your federal budget like it is in a family budget. Because now what you want to do is once we're able to move through the business cycle and get to the good times, like we said, we've already maybe got some motivation for maybe slowing down some of this inflation. Anyway, this is the period in which you are going to pay down all of that debt which you accrued. Okay. Now, what ways can you pay down a debt which you have accrued? Number one, you can increase revenue. That's done through raising taxes, okay? If you had all of these tax cuts during the period of depression, well, we gotta raise taxes to make more money, okay? We also aren't gonna be paying out as much in government programs, and this kind of makes sense. If you were paying out lots to people on unemployment here, well, now